It's Monday, October 26th, and we're going to start the Technology Committee meeting. It is now 5:31, and we'll go ahead and go around the room and introduce yourselves. Kevin Strobel.
Scott Matz.
Greg Cooper.
Julia Olson.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and start with student information systems migration.
All right. So for our change of pace, rather than talking about Infinite Campus, actually this agenda item is related to eSchool.
What?
So this is related to eSchool, our old system. So we are looking to begin our migration fully away from that platform. Until now, users can still gain access to the system to look up information for verification purposes, that sort of thing. As far as that transition away from eSchool, we will now be limiting access to that in a read-only format. This will be actually an action item I'm asking for approval tonight. The BCIU will allow us read-only access to the system for 3 users in an amount of $3,750, which is for the entire school year. Still have access to that data in the open environment, so that will be used as we're still moving through Infinite Campus to
Is that per user?
What's that?
Is that per user?
That is total.
Okay.
So that'll allow us still to have access to the information for verification purposes, just to ensure data integrity in campus, but no changes would be made in the system. It's just going to be a frozen system, which is essentially how it has been operating since June 30 this year. However, we are still referencing things as transcripts are going out and different things just to verify everything's correct in Infinite Campus. So we would like to retain that access through June 30th of 2021 is what the agreement would allow for us to do. So is the only action item I have for tonight, and that is something I recommend that we do engage with the BCIU.
And we can, Dr. Cooper, we can add that?
For this evening.
Yeah.
You
Any-
can do
any
it as
questions?
an agenda edit.
Yeah, any questions? I mean, Julia, I mean, we should it's some it's part of it. I mean, we need to do it, so you see any reason why we wouldn't tonight?
I wouldn't have any objection. Who else sits on the meeting other than you and me?
I can't hear you. Sorry.
I think Ms. Bell, I think, is on, is Ms. Bell on the technology
Yeah,
outreach?
she is, but she's not here yet.
Okay.
Godfrey,
And also,
Ms. Godfrey. You're on this one.
yes,
So,
also Ms.
if
Godfrey.
the three of us agree, and I agree, if the three of us agree, we can push it forward with a recommendation from you.
Okay.
What do you think? Yeah.
Good. Okay. Great.
So when the item of agenda edits come up, just look at it.
That's all you do.
Thank you. Where is agenda edits on there so I can write it down?
It would be at the start of the,
Start.
it would be
Okay.
at the start of the meeting, and then it would go under,
Oh, there we go.
it would go under adding consent items for programs.
I believe so.
Beyond that, no real new information under the migration or what we reported last month. That is wrapping itself up, so we continue to be in a maintenance standpoint for that. Our buildings are trained. We're already nearing the end of the first quarter, so they received training on running the report card process and those things coming up in November. But largely that system is just off and running at this point. Under the telecommunication provider, the equipment has been installed. We're finalizing the exact date, but we should cut over in the month of November. So that'll be the migration away from Windstream Telephone to Ironton/Service Electric for phone service for all of our district lines. So that'll be a nice project to bring in conclusion, and that also will yield a fair amount of savings on our monthly bill, using it by at least half for the foreseeable future.
And is Ironstone and Service Electric for the redundancy?
That is, so this is just phone. So what you're referring to is the next item for the internet.
Okay.
But there is redundancy built into the system. Ironton is the actual back end based, basically subcontract through Service Electric for the actual installs that because of the system and everything else like that. But segueing to that for the internet RFP, so we have begun reviewing the submissions. We're engaging vendors and basically question and answers now based on their proposals. We had a total of 4 vendors submit proposals for internet service. We asked them to bid on 2 locations, one being a connection coming in here to the high school, the other location being the middle school. All 4 bid on a connection coming into the high school, and then 3 of them also provided pricing for the middle school. It is our intent to select 2 different vendors so that we do have that extra level of redundancy. So one vendor coming into the high school, one vendor coming into the middle school. In all scenarios, based on pricing submitted thus far, we should be able to do this project at a cost savings as well. But based on clarifications we received from them and everything else like that, I'm not quite ready to give a final dollar amount or a recommended vendor quite yet, but we're feeling pretty positive about it. 3 of the 4 vendors that submitted proposals, we did have an existing relationship with in some fashion. So we're feeling confident that we'll be in good hands regardless of which vendors we select and which path we go down. So that will be number 1, addressing redundancy for us, and number 2, we will build in some additional capacity, though thus far this school year we've been in good shape with all of our learning. So that is not the primary goal. The primary goal is to sustain the internet connection should anything happen like we had, I guess, probably 2-3 weeks ago when we had the Squirtle decide to do some nibbling on our fiber line. We won't go completely down if that happens again. In November, it is our intent to start giving you some guidance on what our recommendation is going to be, which vendors we're really looking at, with the intent of either December or January making that final decision. If you recall, the other component of this is the Berks County Intermediate Unit is bidding out the county connection for the internet, so we will hopefully have that number to factor in to it as well, whether they are still a viable option for us to continue receiving internet service for one of these connections, or if we just go completely alone with 2 vendors contracted to the district. So as of last week, the report the county tech directors received was they are on target for their timeline, and that would put it in a December timeframe for us to receive information from them. So I just want to say,
Why a separate connection just for accounting?
What's that?
Why a separate connection just for accounting in the past? Why would they do that?
for BCIU?
Why just for accounting? Why just accounting for BCIU?
So that the RBAN for the BCIU, that has been in place, probably 15, 20 years. And it originally originated for the student information system. It was a way to link all the districts back to their servers. Ultimately, they started providing internet access through the district. Internet access is dramatically decreased in cost. So whether that consortium really yields any huge benefit, it'll be interesting to see. This current contract that we're coming out of was 5 years ago. At that time, there were savings, but they were starting to hit that negligible category. So I'm curious to see where they come in at this point. Beyond that, they're just another internet service provider. Really, we don't receive any other additional functionality any longer. There's nothing hosted at the IU that we worry about.
Right. It's all cloud-based now. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Any other questions on that front? Moving down the list of the digital learning equipment. So as promised and as hoped, the carts are deployed and in use in all of the classrooms. So that's the digital learning carts that had the camera, the television, just to facilitate our Zoom and video conferencing connections. So those were completed at the beginning of this month. Mrs. Treehouse is looking around as necessary to support our teachers, but overall, once they were set up, the teachers have been really rocking and rolling and doing some great things with those parts. So we're relieved to have that project done, and we're excited to see where they take it now that they have had a couple weeks to play around with things and start doing some cool stuff there.
Any big wins that you can share with us?
What's that?
Any big wins, like big positives that came out of it?
Really at the elementary level, I think the biggest win has been the students feel part of their classroom again, because they can see their classmates, they can engage, directly hear what's going on in their classroom. So at that level, we heard from numerous teachers that, as a kid came on camera the next day once the car was set up, and they could see their classmates. That they were more excited about that than anything else. At the secondary level, I think probably the biggest win has just been the way the faculty can engage students now. So the teachers can share out their objects. They can show in-classroom demonstrations they have. I know one teacher is having just debates, and the virtual kids could easily engage because now that connection is coming out of the television speakers rather than on laptop speakers. So it's more engaging for both parties now to engage each other. So probably the biggest win just overall is engagement, really, more so than anything.
Okay. Thank you.
The number 5, the model classroom. I guess just so we table it. That's something Mr. McKnight really wanted to have a discussion around. So in his absence this month, that wasn't necessarily time sensitive. So we'll move that for November.
Okay.
And actually, as we look at November, it's nice meetings. I have just updates next month. Really, my goal is to do a presentation on our technology plan, and as we're looking at the budget for next year. Obviously, at this time last year, we were doing a roadmap of our technology plan, and then in March, we decided to do some off-roading and kind of swerve off of that plan. So now, as we're coming back on the road, we'll take a look at some of the cool things we picked up along the way and where that is taking us now for the next couple of years. Because the last couple of months have yielded years worth of technology advancement in a very short amount of time. So we have some adjustments to make to the original plan I presented last year. There's some equipment that just doesn't have to be replaced anymore as a result of one-to-one. And then some new equipment that we take further advantage of in our classrooms as well. So really my goal is next month to have that be the largest portion of our meeting, just to review that, reset things for on the world that we've been in. Like the last couple of months have been interesting to see at least. So beyond that is all I have for this email. There's a question for you guys.
I thought it was a positive out of Dr. Cooper's superintendent meeting that 80% of the students have a parent that's logged onto the portal. I mean, that's a high number. That's really good. I mean, you'd like to be at 100, but
Yeah, we were pleasantly surprised with that number. I really thought it would drop off after the initial start of the year, but it, quite honestly, we weren't watching it as much because it historically drops off, and then report cards for the next big time that we see an influx. So, start monitoring that number in preparation to see what growth we see at report card, and saw some population yet that we need to reach. So, that's positive, and we're happy that our parents are engaging the tools that they have available.
and also with your help desk load. I mean,
Yes, we're very relieved.
that's a stand up and clap moment there. To be that close this soon.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's a whole new process put in place. I mean, so I mean, that's to have that kind
The other thing I'd like
of
to share,
response
too.
time is amazing.
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to share too, and I know Mr. Vance would not share this with his humble demeanor, that there have been some districts that have reached out to as the director of our technology, and some of the things that we've been able to do at the start of this year to engage with students. It's a testament to the board in trusting us to implement the Logitech devices and the digital learning platforms that we are utilizing to continue to move forward, even post-COVID, and integrating those in our instructional practices. So folks are starting to reach out to him, and what we're doing here in the district that's a little bit more forward than some other places. And now that we, as departments, kind of troubleshoot through some of those aspects, asking, well, how did this work out for you? How did that work out for you? Because to be able to provide some guidance and some feedback. So it's a testament to him and what he's doing down there with his folks.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's life after COVID for those carts. Definitely. I mean, there really is. So it's good stuff. I guess anybody have anything else to add? That concludes our technology meeting.